This is Voice of the Revolution News Bulletin for July 7th, Gregorian year 2017, Juche year 106. In the French Revolutionary calendar, it is 22 Messidor on 225 of the Revolution. In the Egyptian calendar, it is Ipit Himit 16. Today on this day, 1,879 years ago, Emperor Hadrian of the Roman Empire died of failure of the heart. Quick news items first. The website blindgossip.com has posted two interesting blind items, the first being titled True Blue Meanies. Reports on a film crew who is, quote, provoking a female multi-hyphenate as much as possible. They know she hates Madonna, so they are trying to infuse every day with the True Blue singer playing her music, wearing Madonna wardrobe choices, merchandise that is Madonna branded, and even discussing early 90s documentary film Truth or Dare around her on purpose. The behavior reportedly caused her to confront the crew and try to get a crew member wearing a Madonna t-shirt fired from the set. The other blind item is called the Oral Brothers, and the website states that, quote, which big-name rock star is taking great care of his brother now that he's made it? Quote, when groupies line up after a gig, the star will insist that fans orally service his brother before they're allowed anywhere near his own celebrity dong. This item remains to be solved or have any obvious answer. If you believe you know the answer to either of these or would like to see the answers that others are posting, both of these can be found at blindgossip.com. The Washington Post, through their YouTube channel, has released their conversation with linguist Jennifer Sclafani. On President Trump, she said, President Trump speaks like everybody else, and we are not used to hearing that from a president. We're used to hearing someone who sounds much more refined. On to a check of the music charts now. Billboard charts have not been revealed for this week. On Spotify, global, as well as today's featured country of Costa Rica. Liam Payne with Strip That Down is at 9 globally. Lil Uzi Vert with EXO Tour Lift is at 14 globally. Maggie Lindemann with Pretty Girl is at 27 globally. Sebastian Yatra with Traicionera is at 40 on Costa Rica's chart. And Ariana Grande with Side to Side has re-entered the Costa Rican chart at 41. Popular YouTube channel News Be Funny has posted the best news bloopers of 2017 thus far. Included is strong British winds blowing a BBC reporter away, the appearance of a sea monster lumbering onto an American local news shot during a snowstorm, a pundit on British television Skyping into the newsroom, getting a surprise from his young children, and even a blooper from a Russian-language news channel, with the surprising appearance of a dog in the newsroom, as well as a young girl giving far-right politician Nigel Farage a piece of her mind. User Drifter Carbon got it exactly right when he summed up the year, quote, this has been a good year for technical difficulties and long, uncomfortable lengths of time where someone should have cut but didn't. YouTube user LovelyT2002 has covered on her channel a remarkably horrific story that has gone viral in the past week, entitled When Attention Whoring Goes Wrong. She details the story of the fellow YouTube users La Mona Lisa. One member of the couple, Mona Lisa Perez, killed her boyfriend accidentally during a shoot that they intended to post to YouTube. Their 2-year-old child was witness to the event. Mona Lisa's boyfriend, Pedro Ruiz, has come up with the publicity stunt that they were going to try to launch into internet virality. Shielding himself only with a book, Mona Lisa Perez would shoot the boyfriend through the book, expecting the paper to stop the bullet. The bullet penetrated the book and kept going through the body of her boyfriend, killing him. In the end, the couples received more viral attention than they may ever have thought possible, but at the greatest price, depriving their young daughter of her father for views. LovelyT2002 mentions that Mona Lisa had tweeted last month that the upcoming stunt was her boyfriend's idea, not hers, but that, quote, the police don't give a shit whose idea it was. Mona Lisa Perez is in jail being charged with a felony. Their 2-year-old child is in custody of the Perez family. Lovely T excerpts in her report an Inside Edition piece showing that the pistol model used by the couple was, quote, one of the most powerful, and how the pistol easily penetrated and destroyed the back cover of a thick dictionary. Quote, imagine when we have 300,000 subscribers, Mona Lisa is heard saying in one of her videos, taken the same day she fatally shot her boyfriend, 22-year-old Pedro. A local news clip from a television station, Valley News Live, also excerpted by Lovely T, includes Pedro Ruiz's aunt saying the couple was talking about their stunt beforehand to family, who cautioned them not to go forward with the stunt. Lovely T 2002 concludes, speaking to her viewers, quote, let this be a warning to you guys. It's not worth it to try and go viral by putting your life in danger. From NBC News's YouTube channel. At a speech in Warsaw, the former namesake of the anti-NATO alliance, in front of a monument commemorating an uprising against the Third Reich that took place in the city. Lech Walesa, former leader of the country who was discovered to have collaborated with the state socialist government this year, was present in President Trump's speech audience. Trump spoke on the presence of American soldiers in Poland, speaking of them as a gift to Warsaw. President Trump gave some subtextual shots at the Russian Federation's control of gas supplies at the region, saying that the United States would aid the Polish Republic build alternative energy sources, that they would not have to depend on oil-producing nations, to thunderous applause. After harshly criticizing state socialism with a speech to exiles on the Republic of Cuba, he also addressed the former system in Warsaw, as well as the Polish Socialist Republic's bloc leader, the Soviet Union. He praised the miracle of the defeat of the Red Army against the Polish Republic in 1920, and characterized the Soviet Union as, quote, bent on European conquest. Trump spoke of the Katyn massacre, a highly contentious event where 22,000 Poles were said to have been killed on the order of Soviet leader Stalin at the urging of Lavrenti Beria. The Holocaust was brought up and also the Polish response to it. Remarkably, for an event that occurred some 73 years ago, Trump reported that in attendance at the speech were veterans of the Warsaw Uprising of 1944. Chants at several points broke out in the crowd, which were not understandable in English and were not picked up in closed captioners, although later news reports said they were chanting Donald Trump. The president implicitly blamed the Soviet Union for the destruction of Warsaw by the Third Reich. In addressing the Polish People's Republic, he said it was, quote, a captive nation, and said that the regime tried to, quote, destroy Polish culture and the essence of Poland. Perhaps most interestingly was, among the many Polish flags and American flags, was a Confederate States of America battle standard held by a member of the crowd, which seemed to disappear later on in the video. Referencing the historic 1979 visit of the then Bishop of Rome to socialist Poland, President Trump stated that people of Europe, Poland, and the United States, quote, still cry out, we want God. President Trump said, quote, the free nations of the West were also responsible for the downfall of the Polish People's Republic. Quote, we cannot accept those who reject our values, he also said of Salafi Islamist militants. President Trump cited, quote, propaganda as one of the ways in which unnamed adversaries of the United States interests were, quote, testing our limits. Defying a narrative in the United States media who portrays Trump as a puppet of the Russian Federation, he declared that the United States news media was an enemy of the people earlier in his reign, and this may have contributed to that. He explicitly stated, however, quote, we call on Russia to cease its destabilizing activities in Ukraine and elsewhere. He criticized Russia's alliance with hostile to the United States, Syrian Arab Republic, and Islamic Republic of Iran. The president implied that Russia was not acting responsibly by intervening in Ukraine and by not joining the American Axis of Nations, adding that by rejecting an American line, the Russian Federation is not contributing to the, quote, defense of civilization itself. He condemned forces from the, quote, South and the East. He stated that the world has never known such civilization as the American Axis. He represented an idea of American exceptionalism on a grand scale, applying to the alliance of the USA and allies as part of an exceptional civilization. the world has never known previously. He claimed that, quote, billions of dollars have been entering the coffers of NATO because of the president's insistence on member nations paying contributions after he urged them to. President Trump situated financial contributions to the American-led alliance as Poland securing its own future. He applauded the purchase of American-produced weapons by Poland. ABC News claimed that the crowds chanting were Donald Trump. From ABC News' YouTube channel, the insistent uprising of the peoples against the world's leading powers takes place in Hamburg as the so-called G20 organization meets in that German city. Police clashed with protesters and protesters set fire to cars. Police used water cannons against the surging masses. ABC of the U.S. reported from barricades with riot police storming behind in column stormtrooper-like. Hand-to-hand combat occurred between protesters and police. Tear gas was also employed. Around 60 Hamburg riot police were said to have been injured. According to ABC, the protesters were centered against capitalism. The message of the protests, according to ABC News, was, quote, the world's most powerful countries, was, you are not welcome here. Hamburg police told ABC that the protesters were attempting to reach the blockaded site of the 20-country meetings. Perhaps for the first time, the president stated on the eve of G20 that he agreed with what he called the enemy of the American people, the American media, in their assertion and the widespread belief in the United States that the United States 2016 presidential election was subverted by the Russian Federation. As police helicopters sounded above, BBC News mentions Hamburg's passive, quote, leftist activism, and the continuation of that tradition in the uprising against the meetings of the world's most powerful people. The BBC reporter who spoke with the protesters described Europeans from all regions traveling to Germany to protest the G20 meetings of leaders. Putin, Erdogan, and Trump seemed to be personal targets of the protesters when interviewed by the BBC. The BBC reporter concluded that the meeting of the most powerful people would be, quote, fascinating. The much heralded in the United States and United Kingdom first meeting of leaders of USA and Russian Federation occurred at the G20 to thousands of clicks and flashes of cameras. Again, like a meeting with German leader Angela Merkel, the press urged Trump to shake the hand of his counterpart, which he declined at first, but then did after a brief speech, highlighting the positive content of the Russia-USA meeting. The press assembled in the small room, starting to shout questions in English to President Trump at an alarming volume, which led Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to laugh. North Korea's television news runs a bombastic congratulatory piece commemorating the testing of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's first ICBM test firing, which it launched in the direction of Japan. It was said to have landed in the waters in the assumed target range. The missile, which has already become something of an object of admiration for DPRK, was named Hwasong 14. Fireworks over Pyongyang in honor of Hwasong 14 were fired, ironically quite near the time of many fireworks in the United States for Independence Day. Previous footage of the mass dance for the missile and the crowds watching on big screens in squares cheering were displayed, as well as the playing of what is presumably a Hwasong 14 song. That was Voice of the Revolution News. I'm Jakob Music.